is back to business. We are well into the last week of testing here in Bahrain. 4 days down, 2 to go. Jolyon Palmer and Lawrence Barretto. It has been a very busy day, hasn't it? Lawrence, are you feeling okay? You've been running around.
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Day 4, I've got 2 more days to go. I reckon I've spoken to pretty much everyone important in the paddock over the last few days. Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes up.
Jolyon, this is the first time that you've managed to actually see these cars. What are your first impressions?
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I watched all the coverage last week, but I really enjoyed seeing them on track. I thought they look good in terms of just the dimensions. I like the shorter wheelbase. They sound good. And as soon as I went to turn 4 first thing today, and I just thought, okay, this is going to be a good corner. You've got braking zones, you've got a nice long apex to see what they're doing, if they're doing anything strange, downshifts or picking up the throttle, and then a tricky exit. And they kind of looked fairly regular. There are different techniques going on. There is, massively a complex power unit that everyone is very aware of. But in terms of actually going trackside and watching the cars, I like the fact that they look a little bit more nimble. People have been talking about it. You can see it very quickly. Everyone's having to fight the cars more. There's less downforce, so you are seeing the drivers having big slides, catching them. They're not as snappy as they have been in recent years. So I think this is a nice challenge in terms of cornering, balance, and feeling that level of grip.
As a former driver, would you like this sort of challenge?
I like that part. I think there's a lot that's complicated as well, and everyone's still working on battery optimization, really. Speaking of some of the drivers, braking zones are really tricky because the straight line speeds, the punch out of the corners is so aggressive. So you get on the gas, and then at some point the energy catches up. So you get 350 kilowatts of energy. It suddenly lumps in behind you. And you can see there's a point where pretty much everyone then has a little fight of the wheel. And especially if you've got lateral load, so you're turning and accelerating, somewhere like turn 11, it's really tricky to drive, but they take off. And again, speaking to a couple of the drivers today, they've been like, the power we've got is incredible, but they do then have to harvest at the end of the straights. And sometimes they're harvesting more than others, so trying to work out exactly how fast they're going at the end of the straights is difficult, and that's why we're seeing a lot of lockups. So that's the tricky bit.
All right, interesting. Well, Lawrence, you hosted the first press conference that we've had in testing with the drivers and the team principals. Starting with the drivers, what was the sort of standout?
I'd say an immense amount of positivity. I think Lewis today was talking about how he feels so much better about being in Ferrari 1 year on. He knows the people, he feels much more settled. First time he really talked about how good the Ferrari had been, and I think that's one subject we didn't really touch upon so much because they'd hidden it so well last week. But the early signs coming out of Ferrari, and I think from Lewis, is that the car feels good. And I think then with Max, I think he was talking about how pleased he was with the power unit rather, and how reliable that's been so far, and the real optimization that they're trying to get out of it at the minute.
Laurent Mekies as well said something really interesting, didn't he, about Max Verstappen. We know Max's thoughts on the cars. He hasn't hidden his thoughts, but Laurent Mekies said that, Max is probably going to be the driver that is going to sort of, own these regulations and be able to get his head around them probably the best.
Yeah, and I think what Jolyon was saying earlier is that these drivers have got a lot of homework to do. They've got to learning of these new tools they've got to use, and I think Laurent was pointing to the fact that actually Max does kind of like a challenge, and I think he'll feel like he'll be able to have the opportunity to make the most out of it, and I think that's one of the reasons why Laurent's quite happy he's got Max in his car.
It's the way that you have to drive them as well a little bit. When I was trackside, you can see that a lot of the time they're being backed into the corner, because to get the recharge, which allows you to get the straight line speed, you need to have a lot of braking on the rear. You need to punch down the gears, and that also spools the turbo. So there's a couple of factors there. But what that does, if you're too aggressive, is it creates massive rear instability. Probably the best driver in the field to deal with rear instability is Max, and it's been famously why he's been able to dispatch his recent teammates. So I think that's the angle. Yes, he likes a challenge. Yes, he's a connoisseur of racing cars. We've seen that in GTs. But his particular skill set is probably pretty well suited. So we're saying Isaac Hadjar, we didn't even see Max in the car today. Hadjar did 66 laps, not the cleanest day. And we said maybe this is a good chance for him to come in clean slate. But it was interesting hearing Lawrence say he's probably the driver, Max, who's going to be best suited to it, even if he doesn't love the car at the moment.
Who else? We say about Max sort of, being able to handle these regulations. Who else do you think is going to be able to do it?
So the other one that springs to mind is another guy that's been really quick, which is Charles. He is another guy that's really happy dancing the car on the edge. So if you're happy with the car being on the edge of rear lock and rear instability on the way in, it's the most efficient way to slow the car down, recharge the battery, and spool the turbo to get out of the corners as well. The drivers have all lost a lot of rear stability. So for those that need that, they need to then find it mechanically on the car, and there's loads of setup they can play with. But if you can deal with that rear instability, I think it gives you maybe an inherent advantage. Charles is a driver that's happy. We've seen so many pole laps for him, thrilling, on the edge, sometimes over the edge, but he can handle it. He has also been really quick so far, and he was top for a lot of the day.
This morning, wasn't he? Really fast. Lawrence, you spoke to the team principals as well. Go on, tell us what the headlines from that.
I think this was the first time we've heard from Laurent Mekies. He wasn't at the test last week, so it was a good opportunity to hear the work that they were doing. And he admitted that obviously Isaac didn't have the best morning this morning. They had a few problems with him again last week, so he kind of wanted to push it back on the others and say that Red Bull are the benchmark when others are trying to put him on the case that they are the favourites at the minute. I think elsewhere, James Fowles was talking about the work that they've got to do to catch up there down there at Williams. Obviously, they started on the back foot, missed the shakedown. They did the most laps last week, but I think they're hopeful that they've got a lot of work to do. And Audi, Jonathan Wheatley was saying that actually they're not where they are at the minute. So I think they've got a lot of work to do to put themselves in a position to be deep in the midfield when we start shaking it out in Australia.
Well, it's been a busy day for the team principals, because not only have they been dealing with you and that press conference, but they've also been dealing with the F1 Commission. So the FIA, the team principals and various other bodies have been getting together to talk through some of the hot topics of these regulations, right? And the one positive that came from these talks, Jolyon, was that the drivers seemed quite happy with the sort of shape of the cars.
Yeah, it's been a busy day. As there's still loads of unpacking of everyone understanding the regs and if anything needs tweaking. But the general feedback was the drivers are enjoying the light nimble cars. It's what I saw very quickly trackside. And again, you can see that the cars are less lazy. They have so much less downforce. I was chatting to Pierre today, and he was like, they almost feel like they've got the rocket power, but like a junior series car in terms of the downforce. Bearing in mind they've had peak downforce last year with the ground effect. They're floating around a little bit, so they are a lot more challenging, but the drivers are enjoying the sort of dartiness of the short wheelbase and the narrow cars.
Lawrence, other things that were discussed in that F1 Commission where the race starts, and something's been decided about them. We've already seen a practice race start today, haven't we?
Yeah, so I think it was quite cool that they discussed it this morning, then they were able to test out the new procedure, or one of the procedures they want to try for the first race in Australia, and that will be that they'll get an extra 5 seconds essentially. They'll be flashing blue lights, so when they've taken their positions at the start, there'll be an extra 5 seconds, and that will allow the cars, particularly at the back of the field, who would have had less time to spool the engine to get it ready to go, to get that perfect smooth launch, they'll get a bit more time. So in theory, all of the guys who are lined up on the grid should be able to start quite smoothly.
It worked okay today. I mean, there was a small grid. I think it was sort of 9 cars that lined up at the end, but there was still a back of the grid, and they got away fairly cleanly. They still looked tricky though to get off the line. There were loads of wheel spin, so I think we're still going to get unpredictable starts, but at least the cars should leave the line.
And it should be spicy, right? It should be.
That's what we want. It's what we want.
Exactly.
More detail, because once the turbos can spool, it is then up to the drivers. It's really sensitive, so you've got to be precise. It's easy to have a chunk of wheel spin, which I saw a lot of. It's easy to bog down if you haven't got it spooled or even find an anti-stall, but you've got to have some decisive factors for the drivers. In the last few years, they've been so standard, haven't they? So to see someone whipping through from the second row to lead, I'm not against it.
Well, we saw that with Valtteri Bottas today. What a start he had at the Cadillacs. That's a real strength for them at this moment, and I think Ferrari are looking like they've got a really strong start procedure as well.
We're going to talk about Ferrari in just a second. We're going to walk towards their garage, but whilst we do that, Lawrence, compression ratios have been a very hot topic. If you've been following all of the pre-season testing, you'll know that. What is the latest with compression ratios?
So at the minute, we're looking at a proposal that's on the table whereby by the 1st of August, engine manufacturers potentially will have to change the way that compression ratios are measured. So at the minute, they're measured at ambient temperature, but now there'll be a second measurement, so up to 130 degrees centigrade. They'll be measured at a second point. So in theory, that you should know how the compression ratios are reacting in colder temperatures and warmer temperatures. So this proposal's on the table. It's gone to an e-vote with the power unit manufacturers, and we should know in around 10 days or so whether or not they're going to carry through that proposal. And if they do, the manufacturers will have until August 1st to make any changes required to their in compliance with the regulations.
If you don't know what compression ratios are, or you want to know more, then head to YouTube tomorrow, because Sam Collins is going to be doing a tech talk all on compression ratios. So if that's your bag, head over there.
Oh, he's going to love that, isn't he? He's going to absolutely love that.
Yeah. That's his dream, I think. Sam Collins and compression ratios, dream made in heaven, match made in heaven. Right, we're walking towards Ferrari now. We've got to talk about them. Are they, Jolyon, up there? Are they setting that benchmark?
I don't know if they're setting the benchmark, but they're in the conversation. I think they're having a really good winter, much better than last year. The car looks consistent. I've already mentioned I think Charles is well suited to it. Lewis didn't get the cleanest run later on in the afternoon session. He was in the garage for quite a while. I'm not quite sure what was up there, but managed to still rack up some laps in the end. But the car looks consistent. It looks good. Charles did his time in sort of the heat of the day earlier on, and it wasn't so rubbered in, and it stood to be pretty good time. So I should say the times don't mean that much, but the attitude of the car and the feeling in the paddock is that Ferrari are maybe not right at the front, but they could be, and they're certainly in the conversation.
I asked Fred Vasseur earlier if they were, at the front, if they're in that conversation, and he just didn't want to tell me anything. He was like, my cards are very close to my chest.
Nobody does, though.
I
They're
know.
welcome to pre-season testing.
It's a nightmare.
That's why we got to wing it. We got to go with it and be wrong at some point.
It's like a season of the traitors. You just do not know who to trust, who's telling the truth. No idea. Lawrence, Ferrari, Are you impressed with what you're seeing? Do you think they've got something special going on?
I'm definitely impressed. I think they've taken this idea of bringing a Spec A car to the shakedown, learn all about it. They're being pragmatic about these new rules and that maybe they haven't always got it right in pre-season in previous years. Then they've started adding performance. They brought an update to the car today, a little wing that sits behind the diffuser. It's all going to be these little tricks that they're going to be bringing over the course of the next few days to try and add more downforce, to add more stability. There'll be more pieces coming on later this week as well. So I like this approach that Ferrari are taking. They seem relaxed, and honestly, in years gone by when they're struggling, they don't seem relaxed, so I think that's telling as well coming into it. But I think Lewis's comments are positive. Charles' comments have been positive as well, Jolyon was saying earlier as well. So I think they look good. I think they can be like the dark horse of the top four, I think, at the minute, with Red Bull and Mercedes kind of throwing it either way.
They're mudslinging, aren't they?
Yeah.
And no one's talking about Ferrari, but the diffuser detail is impressive at Ferrari. You can see the car's been really, really well thought out. It's been looked over, as pretty much the whole paddock is. But I do think they've got some innovative ideas there, and things seem to be working. So we really don't know, because the level of sandbagging I think this year could be higher than ever. But I sense there's a quiet confidence there too.
And Fred was saying at the Christmas media launch they did at the end of last year that they took a lot of risk by turning off the development taps, having a painful year last year, and obviously that's the impact that it had on their Constructors' Championship finishing fourth. So it kind of has to be good this year to kind of warrant his risk, and I think he's taken a lot of that pressure. So the early signs are incredibly positive.
So are you saying that Ferrari fans should be getting a bit excited?
I'm not sure it's quite a hype train yet, but I do think it's been a very good start to them.
Also, we've got to remember that we're what are we on, day 4 plus the shakedown days?
Yep. Yeah.
This is such a long season, and so little bits that turned up for the Ferrari today. You said there's a little bit more coming, but there could be a raft coming for Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes. It's between the 4 of them. I don't see anyone else getting in the mix, but we could turn up for the final day and someone brings a new car and we're like, oh, they're the ones. But it could change so quickly in a long season. So I think as we stand here right now, I think Ferrari are looking the minimum very solid. But there's still 2 more days for someone else to unveil their secrets.
2 very long days of testing still to come. Look, so Ferrari looks solid. The top 4 from last season are looking very solid. But down the other end, how are we feeling about Audi and Cadillac, the 2 new teams, Lawrence, on the grid for this season?
Honestly, think the rest of the pack, those 7 teams, it's really hard to kind of get a feel for exactly where they're all stacking up. I think with Cadillac, we talked a lot last week, Betty, didn't we, about like the good job they've had through pre-season. They brought a car, they look very efficient in the way they're operating, which is no mean feat given they only got the go-ahead about a year or so ago. But I think now in the chase for performance, we saw yet more problems for them today. There were sensor issues this morning. Valtteri didn't get a lot more running in the afternoon. And now I think we're starting to see that maybe as others stretch their legs a bit, they work on their program to show the experience that they've got. Cadillac are just starting to just struggle a little bit. Now look, early days still, but I think it was a tough day for them overall.
I think the benchmark for them was pretty low last week, and they sort of turned up like a professional outfit, which was great. But now they've done that. Now it's like, okay, can they be a midfield team? They've got 2 established race-winning drivers. Can they get towards the rest of the pack? They're not miles away, and they do look professional. They've got a good crew of people they've recruited for the team as well, including the drivers. But they did just have a tricky day, and sensor issues left them in the garage for a long time this morning. Valtteri didn't get a huge amount of laps in this afternoon. I'm not quite sure what went wrong there, but processes seem to be taking a little bit longer. Teething issues, I guess, are to be expected. They look to be towards the back, maybe at the back at this stage, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised. They're starting from literally nothing.
And that's not a bad thing. It's not like they've done a bad job to be there. It's just that they were a new team entering against 10 very competitive teams who've done this for a long time. So I think to expect them to be any more than that early doors would be too much. Audi, on the other hand, they've obviously had the Sauber team and the chassis department that they've had there that they've taken over. They've got the new power unit that they're doing, and it's the only team that have running the Audi power unit. So it feels like they maybe had a bit more for a ground up and a good start towards the end of last year coming into this year, but it's a bit of a tougher job for them overall.
How much does that help, do you think, Jolyon? Audi sort of taking over Sauber, does that give them more of an advantage?
The big thing for them is switching power units. So Sauber had the Ferrari power unit. I think it's working well. Haas are very complimentary about their power unit, which is the Ferrari. It's reliable, it's performing at least well to be in the conversation of being the fastest team. So Audi have started their own thing. In the long run, it could be an advantage. They've got autonomy in how they integrate the chassis and the power unit, which can be important for design and development. But in the short run, it's a little bit like Cadillac. They're starting from a low base, or they're starting from nothing. They've got to build up. They spent years on this, but they're also the only team with Audi engines. So they haven't got any other data. If they're not on circuit, they're not learning anything. If Ferrari aren't on circuit, they can still learn with Cadillac or with Haas. So you're seeing a little bit of that. The same is true for Aston Martin. I would say generally new things are not going well right now. So Cadillac, new team, naturally struggling. Audi, new power unit, naturally look a little bit on the back foot. And the same thing with Aston Martin and Honda. Same issues, loads of reliability problems once again, and they're the only team with a Honda engine. So those guys, I would say, are the ones that look like they've got their work cut out. But they will improve quickly through the year.
They will. Now, 2 days of testing left, Lawrence. What are we expecting from the teams? What are they going to be trying to do over the next 2 days?
I think it's almost time for the chase in performance, finally, I think. So I think over the next couple of days, we're going to start teams moving away from maybe just reliability checks to the search for performance. Komatsu was saying earlier that, they've done so much mileage now and they know that the car is pretty solid in all of the areas that they were hoping for. So they can afford to take some risks, try some different things up, because ultimately they've only got 2 more days before they're going to have to line up in Australia.
It's exciting, Jolyon.
Yeah. It's that. I spoke to the guys at Alpine earlier on, and they were saying we didn't actually have a huge amount of spares to start the year. It's pretty normal at the start of the season. You don't want to have floods of spares and then they become obsolete quickly. But when there is actually more mileage, they have to be a little bit more cautious. 2 more days to go, they can start pushing things maybe a little bit harder. So I think we'll see that from across the board. Yeah. Maybe now the compression ratio vote has been settled, we'll see a little bit more if the Mercedes power units or anyone else has got more to unlock as well. It's all to play for. I want to see glimmers of more performance from a few.
Oh, fingers crossed. I hope we see it. Guys, thank you so much. 4 days of testing in Bahrain done and dusted. 2 more to go. We'll see you tomorrow.